Welcome to another episode of the Intelligent Document Processing Podcast. I'm Alain Veuve, CEO and founder of Parashift, and I have the pleasure to welcome today John Häfelfinger, who is CEO of the Basel-Landschaftliche Kantonalbank. John, please introduce yourself. Who are you?
Hi. Well, actually, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm John Häfelfinger. Obviously, I've been working in the banking sector for roughly 35 years now. In my past, I was really doing international business, and in 2017 I could join BLKB, which is a partly state-owned bank, and which has actually its area of influence in the northern part of Switzerland. So I run BLKB, and the task when I joined BLKB was really to modernize the company and to really bring it up to speed with developments in banking which have recently taken place.
All right. So actually, you have in the past couple of years, you sort of not really restructured but modernized the bank. I think this is the image one can get from the outside. In 2016, I was writing a blog post which was the headline was "Dear Banks, It's So Over." I was arguing that, while we probably will continue to need banking services at scale, we probably don't need banks. Now, just another 6 and a half years over now, and we still have a lot of banks, and banks are stronger than ever, and they're actually making a lot of money. So how do you think of developing a bank? There's a lot of innovate or die, which is sort of a term. So how do you see the banking sector moving forward?
Okay. Well, obviously there has been a slight shift. I mean, we experienced disintermediation of the value chain with a lot of fintechs moving in. Now, convenience is an important element, and not anybody and everybody on this planet loves 50 finance apps. So banks started to integrate part of that again, which we call ecosystem, right? And so most of the banks have done a pretty good job in that by integrating again services which are useful to clients. And I see that banks have really moved away from each other in a way that they are specialized in different areas, although they call themselves universal banks, right? Which means we do finance, we do advise people on money management and investing. Still, banks have developed, and if I look at cantonal banks, for example, which had really the same business model in the past, you see that there is now 3-4 clusters which are developing, and part of us are really working in ecosystems. And today I would consider BLKB as an ecosystem which consists of the core banking, which we do, which is kind of financing real estate and corporates, and managing funds for clients and creating wealth on one side, but also more services which became important due to the development of the financial sector. I think the banks who do a really good job in that are banks which create their own USP because they make themselves less vulnerable.
All right. You're speaking of these 3 to 4 categories. What would that be?
So it's really the very traditional banks who say, well, look, clients want to deposit money with us and they want to lend money from us. So that's really, category 1. And I think, they have a very strong footage in their regions, but apparently they become more vulnerable because there is always, due to cyclicality, and we've seen that, for example, in the last 10 years, when interest rates became low, insurers, pensions funds became more attracted by the whole real estate business. So they started funding and lending into that, right? So you're a bit more exposed to the market. Then there is the banks who really concentrate on certain areas and who are very international, big banks who do trade finance, who do this and that. So that's really the big banks who work in a big environment. And then there is the banks who started creating ecosystems, who said, well, we have First of all, we have a USP in our advice. So they started developing their client relationship managers. Secondly, they built up a portfolio of services which they put together in a unique way, so that it makes sense for their clients to work together with them.
All right. So yeah, I mean, your bank actually is more and more becoming the image of, or getting an image of becoming a very innovative bank, actually. And you did some from the. I have an outside view on your company basically, and I think you did some things that are not so intuitive. Like there's this shop in Basel where you opened, and so while other banks actually were closing down a lot on the shops, the representation in villages and towns, you actually. I think you closed some, but you also opened some. So what's the strategy behind that?
Well, if I talk to my kids, they would probably not perceive a bank by their bricks and mortars, right? Yeah. But still, I think for a wider clientele and audience, a bank has still a face somewhere. And I think that's where the biggest difference between really the pure digital banks, who could be anywhere, and a bank like ours is. I mean, the bank building and the place of meeting people is very important. And it also has the difference. I mean, we transformed our whole branch network, whereas before it was really the clerks who gave money to clients, where money and cash was important. Nowadays, it's the advice which became important. So our relationship managers, they meet 3, 4, 5 clients a day, and then they advise them on how to invest their money, etc. And I think, our life became more complicating in the last 20 years. I mean, 20 years ago, people were working up to their pension. Then they got a retirement plan, and that was it, right? Yeah. Today, people work in portfolios. I mean, we have multiple entrepreneurs. We have people who have more than one job. We have people who work part-time. Yeah. We have people who have family and do work, etc. So life became more complicating in a way. Although it gives us more variety, it still is more important to really plan. And that's where the bank comes in. And that's why we also said, as a BLKB, I mean, we need to be close to our clients wherever they are, right? We need to be close to them also physically. And so, since it has a tradition, I mean, BLKB has had 20,000 plus clients in Basel, and we have 20,000 plus clients in the Canton Aargau. So we said, well, we want to move close to them, right? Yeah. It's very obvious. Yeah.
So you were not jumping train in a way that you said, like, at some point, I remember very clearly when digital transformation started to take off, there a lot of voices out there saying, well, every interaction will eventually be digital. And then after a certain period, we found out that, oh no, it's probably hybrid, because at some situations, people want to interact in a digital way, and others, they actually want to go to the brick and mortar store. So have you intentionally modeled this as a customer experience thing? Mm-hmm. So how do we want to interact with our customer? Is this more like learning by doing? And
well, I mean, we realize there are things which you don't want to discuss in a digital environment. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I talk about my inheritance, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a very personal thing. Mm-hmm. So I need somebody to trust in, right? There is probably not a one solution to that. Mm-hmm. When I talk about asset allocation, when I start, just doing a fund plan, something like that, that's pretty simple. You can do that digitally. Mm. But when it becomes about giving financial literacy, maybe you want to be there in person. Mm. I think it's not us who's modeling that, it's more the clients. And we have to offer a service on each channel, be it digital, be it hybrid, be it physical, which is equal. Mm. So that made banking a bit more complicating in a way, because we have clients who want to open an account when they are at home. Some of them want to discuss about the house, and third parties or third people just, there's other people who just want to get the best deal and they go to the internet, right? So we cannot choose that. It's just evolving.
All right.
And we see, it's not even a question of age. A lot of people say, well, you penalize the old people because you don't have the tellers anymore, the clerks anymore, who really give the money. And we say, well, it's not a question about age. It's really a question about, there's different clients who want different things.
Do you monitor that? Like collect data
absolutely.
on the interaction, the demographics and everything?
Absolutely, and I can tell you, there is no pattern which you can really, really follow. The only thing is, what we realize is that people who come to the bank and to get cash, the amounts become smaller and smaller, and we have a lot of people who come like 2-3 times a week to get like 50 francs, 100 francs, right? So there is just little amounts which are really bigger, and we see a lot of repetition there. So a lot of people come like 50 times a year, and there is other people who don't ever show up in a branch to really get cash.
Yeah, okay.
So and another important thing is,
which group are you belong to? more the cashless side, or
I do have 100 Swiss francs on me.
Yeah, okay.
Right, at all times. Why? Because if I go to a Christmas market and somebody doesn't accept, cash. But I have to say and we just realized that in my family, even my kids, they don't use cash anymore. Everybody's using, I work with the iPhone, so I have my, my credit card on my iPhone. I use that. I never ever use credit cards physically. I don't. So.
Yeah, me neither.
And obtaining cash really from an ATM, I rarely do that. And we see that that happens also in the bank. So I'm not really special in that. We had a point when the cash drawings in the branches were reduced, and then we had the ATMs which went up, and now the ATMs came back as well. So this reduces, right?
So did you see there's like a drop after Corona?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So because there were so many more acceptance points in stores.
Yes, because people, were asked to pay without contact, so they were asked to pay with credit card, right? And so now they had to start with that, and they now feel some sort of convenience.
Sure, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, and it's, in a way, I have to say, a lot of people, when we talk to them and say, well, is it because the bank's pushing you, right, into that, or is it because the industry is pushing you into that? So that's something which we try to keep in balance, because at the end of the day, we are a cantonal bank, and we still have to have this cash means as an organization. So people have to be able to withdraw money from us somewhere, in a way, and we want to do that, but we see that the relevance is diminishing.
Amazing, interesting. BLKB is actually, for the ones that are not familiar with localities here, BLKB is a very strong brand and a very renowned brand here in the region. Apart from you guys producing solid financial results, this is also like an institution, a moral institution, sort of like people are looking up to that company. That's what I feel from interactions. And,
Thank you.
On the other hand, you are actually risking a lot in a way that I think you're going out of that comfort zone, being more of a traditional bank, and you modernize the whole company. And in German, this is saying like, wer wagt gewinnt. So do you see yourself on a winning streak? Now that's very hard for a CEO to say no. I know. We're in private.
Honestly, I wouldn't really call it risking. I think not doing anything whilst we see that the entire industry is developing would be the biggest risk, right? I mean, being the frog in the kitchen whilst the water is heating up in the pan, right? Slowly. And I don't think that really we are risk for that, but still I see there is the opportunity. I mean, we have obviously clients who change their interaction with the bank. We also have regulatory issues which basically force us to do things differently. And there is digitalization, and all these elements basically force us as well to do things in a different way. And when we now use digitalization, it obviously yells and shouts that, we have the canton, but for low risk business, which is, for example, the entire investment opportunities, etc. I mean, when it comes to asset management of clients, we can offer that to a wider party than just the canton of Basel-Land. So we produce something which we can basically multiply in a way. So I think we are not really taking a risk, whilst I have to say Basel-Landschaftliche Kantonalbank has always been somebody or an entity which invested. I mean, we bought a private bank at some point in time, we invested in a digital hub at some point in time, etc. So this is something which is not really unique, neither for BLKB nor for cantonal banks. Most of the cantonal banks do that, right?
I didn't mean it in a way that like taking operational or financial risk. It's more like maybe a personal thing also. Man, you could have decided, okay, this is a very solid company. I'm starting to run when you took over as CEO. Yeah. And there are other examples we have a lot of cantonal banks in Switzerland. Some are run in a very conservative ways, and so like I think it takes some energy to actually step out of that comfort zone and what drives you? What is this? Is this just like not ending as the frog in the boiling water? Is this like your whole motivation? Or
well, we have actually a very strong governance, which is put on us by our shareholders, right? So the Canton Basel-Land has a strategy, and the strategy means don't go into fields of high risk. Now, going in a field of high risk would be doing nothing. So that's one thing. But secondly, it's also an ambidexterity. I mean, we have to do our groundwork. We have to be there for the banks, for our clients in the Canton Basel-Land, and we do a great job on that by being the biggest small and medium enterprise organization here in the region. So we have a very strong focus on that. We have a very strong focus on private clients, and we are really in the era here, number one on that field. And we aim to be that also in 5 years from now. Once we do that, there is synergies from that, which we use. And that's basically what you might consider as very modern, but it's just a development of our field. Give you an example. We have an investment in Truwels. Truwels is the cheapest asset manager in Switzerland. And why did we do that? I mean, it goes back to 2014 when we started this. So long before I really joined the bank. So we had the feeling at that point in time, okay, there is a growing part of clients who want to interact with bank in a digital way. Secondly, they believe that the market is the market, so they buy ETFs rather than certain stocks, and they want to do that in a cheap way. So there is a big part of that, or big clientele for that, and it was a niche before, and this niche becomes grows from day to day. So being invested in that was a very clever thing to do at that point in time. So I think there is
early anticipation of the broader development.
Correct. And now, to give you another sample, we are invested in a company called Swiss Peers. Swiss Peers does peer lending. Now we realized it becomes more and more troublesome for small companies to obtain credit from a local bank. If somebody starts a nursery or a small shop, he doesn't get money, right? There is just little entrepreneurial support in Switzerland, right? So we did this partnership with Swiss peers, and we started our 100 for Basel-Land startup program. So that's the way how we support the region. So we don't do just investing and creating and innovating. It has to do with our strategy, and it has to fit into our strategy. So at the end of the day, it's like a clockwork, right? Yeah. It has to work together. Yeah. That's the way we do it.
All right. So there's another, like in German, maybe wer gewagt wird kritisiert. How do you handle that? I get a lot of criticism for creating new stuff. So, so everybody laughs at you. I think that's how it goes. Laughs at you, then everybody sort of criticizes you, and then once you succeed, everybody's sort of applauding you. How do you deal with this? I mean, as somebody who is an entrepreneur, basically. Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we started like 4 or 5 years ago. We said we want to do insurances as well. Insurances which are, in the financial industry, when a bank does insurances, you call it all finance, and there were banks doing that in the last century even, so in the early 2000 years as well. And we started that because we said, look, we want to cover risk for our clients. That's our biggest goal. So when somebody buys a house, he has a lot of risk which he takes on. The value of the house, interest rates, he has or she has a family to take care of, etc. And there's part which we can insure as well. So as a bank, we cannot insure the value of the house. No. We can tell when somebody buys a house, we can tell you it's a good price or it's a bad price, right? And then we can basically fix your interest rates, but can we make sure that you keep your job? So to pay off the mortgage? No, we cannot, but we can render insurance for that. So we said, okay, we have to cover risk. So the purpose was not, for us, was not really, okay, BLKB wants to sell insurances. We said, when we advise a client on risk and buying a house, we want really to cover 360 degrees. And that's what we also did, or that's what we do today, right?
Yeah, that's really great. And another new endeavor is Radicant. I think this 2 years in the journey, you're building a new kind of bank, basically. How's it going, and how do you see this?
Okay, we BLKB at some point in time realized, said, look, as BLKB brand, we will never grow into Switzerland. Now, digitalization is taking away some of the boundaries which we have, right? And we said, okay, we are such a good brand. We believe strongly in sustainability, and we believe that sustainability will render a very high performance for investors in the next years to come for various reasons. So at that point in time, we had this really, really strong conviction that this is going to happen. And we wanted to build a company which is very strong on that, and which is covering not the high net worth individuals, but affluent clients, so Mittelstand in German, right? And we said, okay, well, doing that under the brand of BLKB is not helping. First of all, we have a very strong and solid core system as BLKB. To really develop that is it's take a lot of time. Secondly, people wouldn't really appreciate the brand of BLKB in the Canton Ticino, right, in another part of Switzerland. So that's why we said we have to have a fast-moving organization which adapts the newest technologies and who grows into this field of affluent client, which is today an underserved field.
So there's no other offering for like sustainability interested affluent clients, right? There's no other
No, I mean, but we are concentrating on really this field. It's a collaborative, integrative, sustainable bank. They offer services around sustainability. So it has on one side the entire investment part. It has the everyday banking part, of course. It wouldn't be a bank without that. So they do payments, etc. But it very much focuses on the 17 SDGs of the UN. So basically, if you invest money, not only you do good with that, but also you get a higher performance from that. And that's basically was the target. And we felt that this affluent client, segment is really underserved in Switzerland. Most banks concentrate on high net worth individual or ultra high net worth individual, and you get kind of a standard service for retail and affluent client. And we said, well, we can do better in that.
All right. How is it progressing?
It's progressing very well. They started with a friends and family program recently, and I'm really thrilled about that. We also have our first products in the market, which is investment funds and investment products, and now they are combining that, and hopefully, we have a broadening of this friends and family program, and once really we are in a situation where we feel that the product is so good that we can really go to the market, we'll really launch it.
So that means it's developed in a lean way. So you guys don't have like a waterfall plan where it's like, okay, wait, this is the date where we finally launch. It's more like you do iterations with the early customers and then open it step by step.
I mean, we had the products which came to the market in a few months ago. So we had that, so we could test that as well. So the products were there. And then we have the banking solution, which we said we want to test that, and we really want feedback because it has more features than really just a usual bank, I can tell you. And this was important for us, that the entire sentiment of the clients of Radicant would be good, and we have to differentiate in a way. So it's not just a neobank, it's a bank which has a sustainable approach, and it's really thought from A to Z in a sustainable way. That's important. So when you interact with this organization, it has to be a good experience.
From an operational point, is this a single? An entity that's not connected to the BLKB, other than like you're the owners, or do you use synergies?
No,
organizations.
We do have synergies. I mean, first of all, look, BLKB is concentrating on northern part of Switzerland, right? And we say, okay, by growing into Switzerland, we don't increase, but we de-risk the organization, right? That's the first thing. But it's a 100% subsidiary of BLKB today, whilst we don't think that's going to be the way also in future. So we will have people participating. And the synergies we take is really on sustainability. So we have a very strong conviction, both banks do have a very strong conviction there. We have a lot of synergies on tech because they use and apply, and it's like a building block. They can choose from the most modern entities, whilst we have some core banking system and something which is very traditional in a way, right? And we can develop that very slowly, because they can move fast by putting together all the things they want. So we learn a lot from that.
It's really clever.
Yeah, it's good in a way. I mean, we have a lot of synergies, but the synergy itself is not really the moving part. It's just the nice byproduct, if you wish, right? And it helps us also in developing, and we share a lot of things. I mean, they have a very clear view on how to address a client in a digital way, whilst we have, as I said, like 3-4 ways how to target the client. So we learn a lot from each other, but the most important thing is they will address a niche market in Switzerland, which became quite big, and which becomes even bigger.
Yeah, it's actually just starting. Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah. All right. Yes. So one last question, basically, and I asked that a lot of CEOs that are coming here. Where do you see your company in 10 years? It's a boring standard question, but it actually is interesting to see what's your vision.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we are just entering a new strategy period. Whilst in the last strategy period we were really opening our mind as an organization, we now have a pretty good feeling in which direction the financial industry is moving. So we get a lot of assurance from that. So our goal in the next strategy period, in the next 5 years, is to really become even more important in the field of asset management for our clients, because we feel that's the biggest issue we have in Switzerland. When we look at all the social insurances, etc., that's something most people don't realize, that there is big gaps opening, and we want to be an important player there. So we want to, I mean, when you ask me about the vision, right? I mean, we have a vision, and we want to be what we call positive cantonal banking as BLKB. And it sounds a bit weird, and it's also something we use internally, so we don't claim that, you know, in media. But I mean, what do you want to do? We want to add value to the people who deal with us. We also want to strengthen the region. So with KMUs, so small and medium enterprises, with all the programs we have there and our financial support there. So we want to render value and make this region stronger. So that's like the higher purpose, right? Okay. For our stakeholders, we want to generate obviously very good returns. So we have a plan to also do that for the next years. And obviously for private people and private persons, we want to be the partner who really allows them to not only do a clever financial decision, but also for their family, for the region, and for the entire world. So when we talk about sustainability, I mean, we are on a path where we really develop portfolios in that direction. And it's not that we think it's just, it's a political statement. No, not at all. We are really convinced that, there is higher yields and high performance in that field. So by transforming our organization into an organization who respects that, we believe we have a unique USP. And we invested a lot in the last 3-4 years in developing our staff. And we inserted something which we call the human capital value, really. So when people join our organization, whilst they are with us, they should become better. And that's really the proposition we give to our staff, that we say, join BLKB, we'll make you better, we'll increase your market value and your value as an employee. So that's basically the vision in terms of employer branding, if you wish. So I think by developing these people, we will create big value in advising our clients also going forward. And that's really important because, products and margins on products become smaller. What comes even more important and which is really valuable is good advice. And we invest a lot in that.
Very good. Thank you very much, John, for being here and sharing your insights. Excited to be so close, actually.
Absolutely.
Parashift is just like 10 minutes, a 10-minute drive from the headquarters of BLKB.
Well, not only that, right? I mean, you are in the inner heart of BLKB by rendering excellent services for us.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.